Good afternoon, everybody. It's 12 o'clock East Coast, right on the dot. So we'll give it like another 30 seconds and then we'll get right into it. Let's just make sure everybody gets in smoothly here. Just want to make sure we're using the time as effectively as possible. Good afternoon to everybody that's joined. This looks like still a couple of people still still joining, so we've got a little bit of time here. Hopefully everybody's having a good Friday. Exciting end to a very busy week in retail, busy period. Okay, so here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the Red Iron Pulse webinar series, our second episode, second of 8 that we have planned. This episode, we're going to go over targeted observations and real-time monitoring. A key component in the Pulse suite, you'll see in a couple slides, really what the core features and functions are of Pulse, and how we have how we have it broken up into like our honeycombs. Just a bit of a quick background on Pulse and just some things to get us started here. Contact us info@redirontech.com for some live Q&A. If you have questions, please feel free to email them over and I'll try to get to them, as many as I can at the end. Today you have myself, Mike Wilson. I'm the Chief Retail Officer at Red Iron. I was previously head of stores and head of IT for the Children's Place. And we have Jim Davidson with us, who's going to be taking us through all the fun clicks of the system itself. And he's a retail specialist with us at Red Iron. Jim, do you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone.
All right, so let's get into it. Red Iron Pulse, powering the next generation of retail observability. As we, we'll do a quick episode 1 recap. We'll talk about episode 2 and just, give a little teaser for episode 3. There's a couple things, really 3 high-level things I'd like you all focus on as we go through this, just to think about. Part of Pulse is helping you maximize your technology capital spend. And what that means is money that you've invested in, system interfaces and point of sale and technologies at the forefront of your customer journey, which is, exactly what your customers see when they walk into your stores. So maximizing that capital spend, really important. Pulse helps with that. A reduction in overall MTTR, or mean time to resolution. How fast can you go from when you first find out about that thing, or you'll see today when Pulse detects that thing, even before you'll hear about it from a customer, reducing that. So how can we bring that down very quickly to stop it from spreading, stop it from happening again, and make that friction at checkout seamless, so you get some repeat business and your customers are happy. And then store level profitability. So that's what this all ties down to, right? Every one of us here is supporting retailers. We're retailers. We're trying to make money. We're trying to become profitable. And it's all in, the gravy is on the top of, how we outpace our expenses with margin from sales and how we're able to make money. So, just a bit about episode 1 in review. We covered, one of the core fundamentals of Pulse, which is estate management and governance. We kind of gave you, a bit of a definition of, what observability means for stores. We talked about, issue detection. We discussed, why some of the tools out there today really don't work. They weren't purpose built for retail. It's more of like a log kind of collection, approach. It's not really gaining a lot of insights into it. It takes a long time, especially if there's, manual steps involved where you have to pull back logs, and you're on a store that doesn't have great broadband, and we're not sure how many stores it's in, so I got to kind of randomly pick stores. I'm not sure if it was exactly on that register, which register did they call in about. So just setting the foundations about state management governance in episode 1. Episode 2, we're talking about targeted observations and the real-time monitoring capabilities of the system. Like I said, there's 8 of these. We'd love for you to join them all. We have some repeat visitors, which is really good. We've had a lot of interest since the first webinar. We have some net new people, kind of into our ecosystem here who are trying to learn, some existing customers who this platform could really add some value for. Then just a quick plug about episode 3, which is going to happen on January 9th. That's a Friday, 2026. It's the Friday before NRF. So hopefully we can engage, on that Friday virtually, and then get to oh, we have somebody trying to join from phone, so I'm going to let them in. And then get to engage with you at NRF. So that's really important for us. We believe that modern stores, retailers in 2025, 2026, and beyond deserve observability as basic requirement. It's just, we have to shift out of the paradigm of log collection, log snooping. We have to take a log, we're going to need to upload it to a provider. All of those things add time when you're in the middle of a large-scale outage, or maybe it's an outage you're not sure how big it is. And it might be one store calling, but it's affecting 100 stores, or in some of the larger estates, it's affecting 500 or 1,000 stores. And it's about getting down precisely to that as quickly as possible. The other thing I would say about Pulse before we kind of dive deeper into the deck is this is a very unique tool. It's not really, certainly it doesn't compete with a lot of the other ones out there. It's shaping this market of observability for purpose built for retailers and building out, kind of its own category. So when you see it and you think about it, think about how it just takes you past, the basics of us, grabbing logs and, the traditional process. And, I kind of covered this in the last webinar. I'm going to go to the second slide. You guys could take a look at this. But, when you're thinking about an outage and something happens in your estate, is it one store or more? Is it regional or global? How many stores are in the help desk queue? Okay, somebody has to open up a P1. We have store managers calling. We have area managers, district managers. Everyone's calling in, and we're, tech teams are trying to, triangulate what's happening. Get everybody on a bridge. Get network team. My joke is like, if it's not the application, it must be the network team or database, which is, not always true, but open SF1 with other providers. Now let's start doing log collection. Let's start looking at logs. Let's find the point where the issue started. Like I said before, oh, it's store 7, register 4. Oh, I accidentally, went into store 700, register 4. I can't find it in the logs. And then reading, what changes did we make? So everybody starts asking all these questions. What's new? What's the last thing we rolled out? When was the last release our payment provider made? Oh, did our loyalty platform, make an update that we're not in sync with? Did something reboot overnight if it's an early morning kind of outage? So there's all these things starting to, go around in your head, and it's everything starts to come back online. And then, because you made a whole bunch of changes and maybe fixed it, but that's hours worth of work. Hopefully for our retailers, it's not days worth of work, but then you're trying to quantify lost dollars. Do we have to do, formal RCA? Who's going to shape it? Does it come from the vendor side? How much money did we lose? We had associates standing there, unable to transact, doing nothing. So just, when you think about that and you think about how Pulse cuts off that time at the beginning, it's really driven by the core capabilities of Pulse, which are here in our honeycombs. I certainly don't have to read every one, but you can see it. And then on the right side, we just have, our benefits. It helps your deployments be cleaner. So you help, with kind of follow-up issues. You run smoother, so there's less chaos, less calls into your help desk, way more uptime, which drives back, to that profitability statement that I made at the beginning of the deck. One view, very important, right? You don't have to go into 5, 6 different portals. Let's go into a PinPad portal. Let's go into a POS portal. Let's go into our, take a look at paymentprovider.com, status.loyaltyprovider.com. We've all been on statuspage.io billions of times, way more times than we want to, say that we've had to go on those status pages to see what's going on. This, Pulse actually figures it out and can tell you up front and alert you. I don't think we're really getting into the alerting piece today, but you can figure it out through webhooks. You can figure it out through emails. You can figure it out through SMS. All of the most important ways that you want to be communicated with. And lastly, it's tailored to your estate. So we certainly have a whole bunch of pre-built templates and observations Jim's going to show you today that we think are very important, but you can customize this and tailor this to your environment for what are the things that are important to you. Over today's high-level discussion, just to zoom, double-click on observations and real-time monitoring, and the progression, right? Issue happens, it's reported by customer, it's reported by an SM, a DM, area manager, vice president of a zone, turning into an observation, which is, really the meat of what makes this happen. And then, an event and then remediation. That's kind of like the life cycle of things that happen in Pulse. And, really it's the combination of real-time diagnostics and automated remediation that makes Pulse so powerful. And what starts with, in our environment as an issue, a simple observation, it will become actionable event. It'll trigger workflows that correct the issues and prevents really that escalation. So, we talk about a lot at Red Iron about blast radius and, where is it? Is it regional? Is it just that one store? Is it related to a pilot? Is it related to a change we've recently introduced into the environment? Pulse makes, answers all those questions for you. And what are the pain points that you get, kind of like day one that get eliminated with Pulse? You could just check a box. And, traditional monitoring can't really keep up. It's built into your POS. It doesn't really monitor peripherals. And, this isn't a knock, certainly, on some of the out of the box monitoring that comes, from a lot of our providers. But within those, and whether it's networking logs or sys logs or, whatever you're using today, the noise within the alerts kind of hides real issues, right? And you hear it from your teams. There's alert fatigue, and I got 700 alerts, and which one is really the one I should be focusing on, and are 700 real? And did it come? Is it coming every 10 seconds for the same thing? And certainly in the cases of a big issue, you do want to be spammed, but you want to be spammed with the right information that gets down to the actual issue that's happening, and that's what Pulse brings to you. So we're ingesting constantly deltas from all your logs, peripherals. If you're in one of the club spaces, it's rollers, it's your rolling belts, it's your scales, it's your Bluetooth scanners, your handheld scanners, your pin pads. If you have a self-checkout machines, kiosk, all those things, kind of shaping one view of that cache lane and then aggregating them up to your estate. So that's really where it comes in when we talk about observability and how we look at, certain slices of logs and, the way Jim's going to show it to you. We're going to focus today on, kind of a credit response, just because that's very familiar to everybody, right? What does it look like from when somebody dips a card to when we get back a success from that, and then the successful transaction until the money settles into your bank account, a couple days later, depending upon who your provider is. Just to kind of set the baseline, what does targeted observations mean? And an observation in Pulse is really anything that it's a focused insight that isolates specific transaction, device, workflow, payment path, places that historically create the most friction at your retailer's estate. And, when I talked about at the opening, I talked about store level profitability, right? And if you think about it, let's just say, it varies certainly by segment, but if you're a grocer and maybe you have customers that come 40 times a year and, they have a bad experience, they might start coming 35 times a year. Or if you're maybe in apparel and your average customer comes back twice and they didn't have a great experience, maybe now they come back once. The whole goal about eliminating friction at checkout is to give them that great experience, raise that profitability, raise those average trips. So grocery, hopefully you can go from 40 to 45 trips. Specialty, or if it's apparel, you can hopefully, or, home-based, or, really food and beverage. This works across industries and segments. But, a 2-trip high intent customer can now become a 4-trip, 5-trip high intent customer. And most of those are your most loyal customers. They either are enrolled in your private label card, or they're, loyalty, omni customers. They shop across all your channels, owned and operated, e-com store. So really doing that and helping to get them back is about that store, raising that store level profitability and getting rid of the friction in your estate. So, as a team, when we were, kind of building out this webinar, it was like, well, let's talk about 6 things that, are real that Pulse could help with. And these are 6 things, combination of myself plus the team have really lived through. We're going to dive deep into number 1 here, but So that's a card declines during a tax-free weekend. You spent a lot of money getting prepared for tax-free, and that's a big event for your company, and you have great plans associated with it. But now all of a sudden, it's tax-free Saturday, and cards start declining. What's going to happen? Pulse helps with that. A payment routing issue during clearance events. Like we have this inventory, it's stale, we need to move it. We just started getting a payment routing issue, and this is an up-planned day, and why are we having issues with payment routing? Pulse will help there. You're in the middle of a pilot, right? And it's, hey, we're rolling out this new feature set that's going to be great for our associates and great for our customers, but there's a config mismatch. So now this can help you determine that. Where's that config mismatch? Do compares against, golden copy versus non. One that always was big for me was you have these top volume registers within your estate, and you know them very well. And in my estate, I knew them very well. What was like our top dog stores, top dog registers in those stores, and a scanner is just like randomly failing on it. Are you prepared for that? Pulse can raise that up for you very quickly. Next one, holiday. So it's holiday. The only thing you tell your associates to do is sell, build baskets, raise UPT, raise ADS. And, I have some of the key metrics here in my bullet points that are important. Raise conversion. We're just about to comp. We're at minus, 0.5. We're at -1. And you get a call out from one store that there's a slowdown. Or, underperforming store with broadband issues. So this has kind of been a thing. Like, well, the store's not hitting plan. Okay, well, we tried to make some operational changes. We've swapped out a lot of technology. They got new registers, but really there's an underlying issue that has to do there with broadband. So, again, restoring that, getting Pulse to help you get visibility and observability into that helps then bring back your conversion. Your UPT comes back. Now you're at, instead of -1, you're comping, you're +2, you're +3, you're +4, and everyone's happy. So, right before we turn into the demo here, and Jim's going to walk us through, I just want to talk quickly about a belief that I've had, and folks that have worked with me in my career, you hear me say it a lot, but data really is truly any company's #1 asset. The big ones out there, Netflix's of the world, Google's, Meta's, Alphabet's, they live and die by their data. And Pulse is a endless stream of data and observations just waiting for you to figure out how to make them. Constantly signaling patterns, performance shifts, and risks long before the issues arise. Turning that continuous stream into actionable insights is really the heart and soul of what makes Pulse go. So we're going to go into the system demonstration journey here, and Dale's going to talk us through some stuff on cards. I'm sorry, Jim.
All right. Share my screen here.
Go ahead, just share, and then I'll pop your screen up. Okay. Go ahead.
All right.
The floor is yours, my friend.
All right. So what I'd like to highlight today is how you can access the data that is already in the various logs on your registers and turn that into meaningful information that you can then utilize. So for example, there's lots of API requests and responses that are being made from your POS system today. And so whether it's calls to a loyalty program, providing or performing PLCC applications, or simply, everyday EFT authorization requests, there's lots of data that is typically only being looked at when there's a problem. So let's have a look at, what we can do if we're actually looking at all this data coming back in the logs. And so for this example, I'm going to show how we can extract data from an EFT response and create some observations that can highlight issues happening at stores, as well as providing other meaningful information. And so my example today is going to be using an ORIS implementation, but it doesn't matter what provider you use, the mechanics will be the same. Okay, so what we do here is we start off and we go into features. And here I've got a whole bunch of different ways that I'm collecting data from this particular estate. And so if I go into my EFT logs, anybody using ORIS will recognize this ASDK log. And we'll see here that I have 17 matches or observations already defined for that. If I go in here, I can see what the list of them are. And I want to add a new one. And I just want to pause here for a moment. And, the fact that we're already collecting this data and we want to pull out something new, then there is no update that needs to go down to the register. So as soon as we add this observation and we enable it, we're going to start collecting that data right away. Well, let's just go in here and I'll just call it authorization responses. Okay. All right. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have a sample of that log of that information that you want to extract from it. So what we're going to do is we're going to load up a sample. Now, I've copied into my clipboard just a sample of that log, so I'm just going to paste it here. So now we've got our log in our viewer here, and what we want to do is find in this log where the start of an EFT response is. And so I know that it's this. I'm just going to copy that, and I go into my little editor button here. And I've got all these regex helper utilities. I'm going to use string. Paste that in here. And then when I come over to my refresh down in the corner, I can see that I'm pulling that out of this log here. So going OK. And I save this. And now when I do this refresh, you'll see that I've got a whole section here that's highlighted. What this is showing me is that my observation for authorization request starts at this timestamp here. And all of this information that is highlighted up until the next log entry are all elements or what we refer to as attributes that I can pull out of that response. So whether it's card type, card entry mode, transaction amount, did it fall back to keyed entry or swipe, response codes, response text, all of the information that's coming back in the response is available to us to extract information from. So what I'm going to do here, just in the interest of time, is I'm going to take a look at one that I've already pre-built out, transaction responses. Okay, and so here's what it looks like when I've pulled out each of the different elements, so card type, fallback indicator.
And Jim, just to pop in real quick, like I think it's really important for everybody to get, here. This is a very, very, very small sliver of a small observation. For us, this is like nothing, right? Like this, it's very important, but this is like, a table stakes, a day zero type of requirement for us that's interrogating a payment response. There are, millions probably of other scenarios. We just, have decided to look at, all of the elements of a card response, just to show you some of the power and features of the tool set.
Okay. And so once this in and of itself, we would start accumulating all this data so you can report on, how many Visa credit or Visa credit transactions versus MasterCard credit, versus all those things. How many were inserted versus tap versus mobile. And by gathering all of these attributes, what we can then do is we can create even more powerful, what we call children observations from that. So I can do things like card entry mode, different types. A good example would be if I had a gift card, new gift card bin range that I was introducing, and I wanted to make sure that we weren't having any problems in that when we launched it, right? So I could have an observation that uses a variety of attributes to pull that information from. So card type equals GCC for gift card. My receipt token is this bin range. So I'm looking for that specific bin range. Response code not equal to my 50, so that means it's gotten declined. And my transaction type being 41, which indicates that it's a gift card activation. So the more attributes that you have, the more combinations of those things that you can use and get some real insight into what's going on, in this case, into an EFT transaction. You could use the same thing if you're using, mining data from your private label credit applications or loyalty lookups, or if you're doing surveys from the device, all those kinds of things.
So Jim, just looking at time, we got about 5 minutes left. So maybe we just show like how easy it is once this is up to see it on a dashboard and then drill down.
Okay. So here's a simple chart that I've got all of the card entry modes highlighted, and you can see on a given day just what the ratios are. And for any one of these, if I wanted to drill down even farther, I'd get, in this case, on this particular date, we had these lanes all had fallback transactions, and you can even drive farther down and get all the attributes of that transaction. And if you wanted to take it all the way to the log itself, there's the line in the log that generated this observation. And if I wanted to see what led up to that point or past that point, we've got all of this information right at your fingertips. Didn't have to go out and search for log entries and come back. Okay. And that's applicable for anything that we define as an observation. So Mike, I'll send it back to you there.
Yeah, so just really good. As I kind of take control here, we're going to talk fallback, Jim, right? Really important, because that's an indicator that something's going on when you go into technical fallback. It's either a bad guy came in and he dipped the back of his card 3 times because he has a bad stolen credit card and he wants to mag stripe it. Or maybe you have an AID reader that's not working, or there's some indicator that there's a potential failure on your pin pad. So again, going down into like a very low level of detail for the folks on the phone to see, like, if you want to understand where maybe you have fraud, or maybe there's, something else going on in that location that's technical or maybe operational with shrink, that's really how easy it is to do it when you have Pulse stood up within your environment. So I've got the deck here. We're going to go just, last 2 slides to kind of finish us off here. I think we're at 12:26, so just being conscious of everybody's time, 4 minutes left. The areas of ROI. So we kind of, talked a lot about the episodes and what Pulse is. Revenue protection. So preventing lane downtime, very important. Nobody wants that. Payment failures. It's the lifeblood of any retailer, is dip and collect. That's so important. So we protect revenue in that regard. Your store laborers and your technical support, reducing that noise, letting your associates focus on the things that are important, building baskets, building UPT, ADS, all the important things, conversion, every important retail metric. For the tech teams, shortening MTTR. Everybody wants MTTR to go down. It's a probably focus of every CIO ever in history, is like, how do I get my MTTR down? And this helps you do that, right? And it frees your store folks from having technical distractions with unplug a thing, reboot a thing, wait for a technician to come. Not to say that they won't have to come, but certainly, we've eliminated a lot of that noise with Pulse. Customer experience, we talked about it before. Maybe just one more second, it's worth it. Getting those customer visits up on an average 2 to 3 times a year. If they come 2, go 3. If they come 30, get them to come 40, because smoother checkout, faster throughput, and those high intent customers. It's your cross-channel folks. It's, the people that are most important to your business having a really good experience. And then lastly, one of the key tenets that I opened up the deck with was the capital optimization, right? So, predictive replacement, you got something coming out there that's looks a little funky, right? Your register that's, been giving us some issues, and, you have a plan next year to replace all your registers, and you've been running them for 6 years. How are they doing in looking forward in year 7? Do you need to pull that up at all? Or, you had supposed to have them for 5 years, but you have them for 6 or 7 years. How are they doing? How are they performing in kind of that extended lifetime, extended maintenance period? Last thing is just around, closing and next steps. I think we got some questions in. I'm going to try to answer one. What we'd ask for next is certainly join our next webinar before NRF. It'd be great. We'd love to hear from you so that we can talk about the Pulse retail risk reliability assessment, which, it's 30 minutes. It's a session with, some of the smartest people out there in the industry, where we can evaluate your estate, see where Pulse can add value and be a help to your business and keep driving that profitability and those efficiencies. Looking really quick here at questions. Let's see. Sorry, just have to. We got a bunch, so I want to be able to answer them as good as possible. Okay, so here we go. How does Pulse integrate with our existing POS payments and store systems without disrupting current operations? Great question, and thank you. Pulse was actually architected to sit in between all those things. It's a very small agent that sits on your registers. You don't have to modify any POS code. There's no workflows that get changed. No real downtime when you go install Pulse. And it's because we connect at the event and the data layers, your current system stay totally stable with the introduction of Pulse. So just adding a continuity layer across your entire store technology suite. So great question on how Pulse integrates and how we do it in a non-intrusive, non-disruptive way. 12:30, we're right on time. Good. Our dry runs and all our prep worked. So thank you to the internal Red Iron team. And thank you to everybody that joined. We're so happy to have you here. Look forward to talking with you. Very good. Like lots of wishes for a continued successful holiday season for all our customers and potential customers out there. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks very much. Have a good Friday.